How are you, Michael? And so it's important. Glad to have you here. Glad we have some awesome. Yeah. Spread. And 10 minutes after all that. Shabbat Shalom. Good to see you. How are you? All right, so the traditional Gentile corner is over there. But in fact, it's today. Some people did enter feet over in that corner, but please just fill a row or in whatever. Now, how are you?
Well, how are you doing?
Good. It's good to see you. So, anything new with noteworthy? No. All right. Well, thank you. And that accounts for their. Yeah. Michelle and. I do not know anything. Oh, okay. Well, so much for that. That would work out. How's it time? Oh, we're about ready to start.
Start with Roman.
What's that? Okay, that sounds great. We alert the people in the social hall.
And so you were.
Are we not streaming today?
What's that?
We're not streaming today online.
Oh, we are, in fact. Kevin is running it. So, oh, yeah, no, you're going to be broadcast all over the place. That's right. Exactly.
Watch me on TV.
Very good.
Good week, Shel Shabbat.
Don't say any blessing. Oh, it doesn't matter. Yeah. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom to you in here. Shabbat Shalom to you out there. And welcome to Congregation Kol Ami. We're delighted in particular to be guests to a pack of Methodists. But I have to be honest, I'm not sure which church you're from. You're from Denton. Asbury. All right. Isn't that New Jersey? All right. Well, anyway, however lost you are, we're glad you found us. So we're going to start, as is traditional in many communities, with something called the nigun. A nigun is a wordless melody in the idea that in the process of singing and changing our frame of reference, it takes us from the ordinary time of the weekday into the special time of Shabbat. So we're going to have a nigun to get us started.
Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la ya la la ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 la.
Why is this Shabbat different from all other Shabbats? Because this Shabbat occurs on the International Holocaust Day. Now, in case you have noticed, we do seem to have a repetitive Holocaust Day, and that's because the events have been so recent that we haven't really sorted out liturgically how we want to recognize the Holocaust. So there's International Holocaust Day, there's Yom HaShoah, which is observed in the land of Israel, and many Jews still continue to observe the day commemorating Kristallnacht in the fall, which is widely considered to be the beginning of the Holocaust. But today is International Holocaust Day, so I am going to step past our normal custom of offering and asking for good and blessing from the community. And instead, I'm going to draw attention to this lovely, unusual candle. So let me tell you the story of this candle. This candle appeared on our doorstep. And, it was a thick package, and I'm always a little worried about thick packages, but I thought I would open it rather than have Bob open it. And I found this lovely little 2-wick candle in it, but along with it came a note. And I thought I would share this note with you. Dear Rabbi, I recently attended the Holocaust Memorial at our local Flower Mound library. I reflected on the times I have come in contact with you and other members of the Jewish faith. I was blessed to be a hospice nurse at Legacy in Dallas many years ago and privileged to hear many survivor stories and children of survivor stories. I recently read that Hitler's final solution claimed the lives of 6 million fellow humans. It's a little bit of an underestimate, but she is right about the Jews. The loss of dreams, hopes, contributions to our world is immeasurable. At our library gathering, we were asked to write one word of hope, and mine was peace. Later, we were asked to reflect on our own, on the role in making that word a reality. I do my part in loving my neighbors and seeking ways to share peace where I can, at home and in our community. And I am grateful to have met you for your great work in our community and for the many contributions that you and your congregation have made. To Congregation Kol Ami, Shalom, Jamie Langston, Interfaith Liaison from the LDS Church. And she also includes a quote from Rabbi Harold Schulweis, Alav HaShalom, who died just a few years ago. Our common fate and faith, our common destiny find us like the stitches of the parchment. When any of us is lost, the holy text is torn. That's referring to the tradition of the Torah, which is actually sewn together. And what makes it holy is when it's intact. When it is damaged, it loses its status as a holy thing. In memory, we are mended. And on that lovely note, I'd like to invite our VP of Ritual, Molly Marks, to come on and kindle this unique light in honor of International Holocaust Day.
Such a pretty candle.
It is. Yasher koach, my dear. Thank you. That brings us to our more conventional lighting of candles, and Jews are very big on lighting candles. And we are going to turn to page 1 in our Shabbat service for the kindling of 2 lights. And this tradition is based in the question of how do you make Shabbat different than other nights? And the answer is in ancient times, unless you were very wealthy, there was only one source of light in your house, and that would have been your hearth. But the rabbis mandated that you should have at least 2 lights in your house in order to give it a more festive feel on that day. And so it's my privilege to invite up, oh, there she is, Deb Kaufman, to our Shabbat lady, to kindle the lights of Shabbat tonight. We're going to be on page 1. Page 1, everyone.
In the beginning, when the Spirit of God hovered over the darkness, God's first creation was light. As we kindle these Shabbat lights, we attest to the majesty of God's work and rejoice in its beauty. Light is a symbol of divinity and creative goodness. It is the outward sign of that inner spark which God has granted each of us. In hope and with love, we now welcome Shabbat with light. Very days. This matches Rabbi?
Would you like regular?
Yes, please. Thank
It's
you.
old school. We're old school.
Old school.
Old school.
Thank you.
In Melech Haolam, Asher Kidshanu Mitzvotav, Mitzvahanu.
Praise are you, Adonai, whose presence fills the world, who hallows us with mitzvot and inspires us to kindle Shabbat lights.
May God bless us with Shabbat joy. May God bless us with Shabbat holiness. May God bless us with Shabbat peace. Amen.
Thank
you. And now we turn to Kabbalat Shabbat on page, actually, what did we opt for? Ramemu. So we're actually going to be starting on page 5. We begin the Sabbath by reciting Psalms that celebrate God's sovereignty over nature and over us. And we'll transition into a mystical poem called Lecha Dodi, which we will be doing at the end of this introduction. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with this practice, at the very last stanza, we all stand up and we face towards the door and we metaphorically welcome the Shabbat entering the building. All right, so but we're going to begin with Psalm 99, Ramemu, on page 5.
Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Adonai
If it's in italics, I invite you to please read with us. It is you who established equity, you who works righteous judgment in Jacob. Exalt Adonai our God and bow down towards God's footstool. Adonai is holy. Exalt Adonai our God and bow down towards God's holy mountain. For Adonai our God is holy. We go now to Psalm 29. Havu l'Adonai b'nei li, havu l'Adonai kavod ha'oz, havu l'Adonai kivod shemo, hishtakavu l'Adonai b'hadrat kodesh, Adonai olemo yitain, Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom. Now, what we've done up to now is derived from the Bible, but Jewish worship is like parfait or an ogre. It comes in layers. And so what we're going to be doing now on turning to page 7 is Lecha Dodi, a mystical poem composed at the very dawn of modernity in the 16th century. And it envisions the Shabbat as the ultimate blessing of the world and the source of its redemption. So, Lecha Dodi, ladies and gentlemen. And let's see, I'm going to designate Steve and Don, despite the pain in his heel, to open the door and welcome the Sabbath in. Lecha Dodi.
Lecha Dodi Mikakala B'nei Shabbat Lecha B'la Lecha Dodi Mikakala B'nei Shabbat Lecha B'la Lecha Dodi Mikakala B'nei Shabbat Lecha Dodi Mikakala B'nei Shabbat Lecha B'la Shalom Ishmiya Adonai Shemo Tiferet V'netila
B'nei Shabbat Lecha Dodi Mikakala B'nei Shabbat Lecha B'la
Tikam Shabbat Lecha Alecha Merivashmi Kedenes Sebe Mashavatila
B'nei Shabbat
Lecha Dodi Mikakala B'nei Shabbat Lecha B'la He told me He
B'nei Shabbat Lecha B'nei Shabbat Lecha B'la
Holy Shalom, Aterevanam, God Messiah, Rejoice,
And now, in an act of historical whiplash, we turn back to the Bible, Psalm 92. Mizmor shir leyom hashabbat tov lehodot ladonai ulzamir l'shimcha elyon. A psalm, a song for Shabbat. It is good to give thanks to Adonai, to sing hymns to your name, O Most High, to proclaim your steadfast love at daybreak, your faithfulness each night, with a harp, with voice and lyre in unison. Sadiq katamar yifrach ve'erez ve'lebanon yizgeh. And the righteous, they shall bloom like a palm. They shall thrive like a cedar in Lebanon. We surge now into the Greco-Roman period with the Hatzikarish, ladies and gentlemen. Amen. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yipar v'yidmam v'yidnasei v'yitadar v'yitaler v'yitala shemei l'kudusha v'yikul kol chata v'shivata Now, if you thought the service had already begun, you're completely wrong. Well, all we've been doing is spiritual warm-ups up to now. Now it's time for the service to begin, and I invite those who are able to please rise.
Baruch hu et Adonai HaMevorach.
We turn now to Ma'ariv Aruvim. Consistency, constancy, and predictability is also a gift from God, and so we celebrate that with this prayer, which welcomes the coming of evening. Praised are you, Adonai, our God, whose presence fills the world, whose word makes evening fall. God opens the gates of heaven, and wisdom makes time pass, and the seasons change. The stars in the sky move according to God's will. Adonai of hosts is the creator of day and night, causing day and night to alternate. May God govern us always to the end of time. Praised are you, Adonai, who makes this evening fall. We continue now with celebrating God's love, Ahavat Olam. Unending is your love for your people, the house of Israel, Torah, mitzvot, laws, and precepts you have taught us. Therefore, Adonai, our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and rejoice in your Torah and mitzvot forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life and the length of our days. And then your love shall never depart from our hearts. Blessed is Adonai, who loves the people Israel. We continue now with the Shema.
Shema
Yisrael, Adonai Elohim, Please be seated. And just as before the Shema, we acknowledge that God extends love to us, we reciprocate that in our covenantal relationship by committing to love God in the Via Hafta. If you're familiar with it, please join us in reciting.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל לבבך וחיי הדברים האלה אשר מצווך היום בלבבך ושיננתם לך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם להות על ידך וחיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים ללעולם. אני אדוני אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיהם.
And we Jews affirm that God is not only present in our minds, in our hearts, and in our prayer book, but sometimes God manifests himself in history. And there is no moment more paradigmatic to us than when God freed us as slaves from Egypt. Emet ve'emunah kol zot v'kayam aleinu ki hu Adonai Eloheinu ve'en zuloto v'anachnu Israel amo. True and enduring, beloved and precious, awesome, good, and beautiful is this eternal teaching. This truth we hold to be forever certain. Adonai is our ruler, the rock of Jacob, shield of our salvation. Adonai, our God, you redeemed us from Egypt. You set us free from the house of bondage. For this, the people who felt your love sang songs of praise to you. Living God, high and exalted, mighty and awesome, who humbles the proud and raises the lowly, who frees the captive and redeems the oppressed, who is the answer to all who cry out. All praise to God Most High, the source of blessing, and like Moses and Israel, we sing this song of rejoicing, Micha Mocha, the song that Moses sang as he crossed the Sea of Reeds.
Ya la la ya la 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 ya
Again, we shift gears a little bit because it's evening. We say a prayer at the time as we get ready to retire. that God watch over us in the night. Hashkivenu. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom v'hamidenu malkeinu l'chaim ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha. Grant that we should lie down this night in peace, Adonai our God, and raise us up tomorrow, O sovereign, to life renewed. Spread over us the shelter of your peace. Guide us with your good counsel, and for your name's sake be our help. Shield us from hatred and plague. Keep us from war, famine, and anguish. Subdue our inclination to evil. O God, our guardian and helper, our gracious and merciful sovereign, give us refuge in the shadow of your wings. O guard our coming and our going, that always we have life and peace. We praise you, O God, whose sukkah of peace is spread over us, over all your people Israel, and over Jerusalem. The next part of our service, called Tefillah, or the standing prayer, was composed by the Jews of the Persian Empire during our time with them. We've been around a lot, and this prayer is said standing, at least the first three prayers are, and they're really blessings. They're not requests for anything. So please rise if able on page 17 for Tefillah.
Adonai,
In my mouth we declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Elohim, Elohim, who made the marshal of the Melech Hosea, Baruch atah Adonai, Ma'ina Raham Eson Saram, Atah Borel Mechaye HaKolata Rav Loshia, Mechaye Tanim Vertesen, Mechaye HaKol Verachamim Rahim. So make no clean holy. Melech meni tunatayeh u'asir Yeshua manatah l'chayot hakol Baruch atah Adonai atah kadosh shimcha kadosh u'kadoshim l'kol yom yithaluk asela Baruch atah Adonai. You are holy, your name is holy, and all who strive to be holy daily sing your praise. Praised are you, the holy God. Please be seated. Ishamru.
Yes.
Yes, that's good. So back to the Bible with us. We're going back to Exodus. This is a song in honor of the Sabbath.
ושמרו בני ישראל לעשות את השבת לדורתם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל לעשות את השבת לדורתם ברית עולם.
The children of Israel shall keep the Shabbat, observing it in every generation as an eternal covenant. It is a sign forever between me and the children of Israel. For in 6 days Adonai God made heaven and earth, and on the seventh day God rested and was refreshed. Now we want to return to the Persians. We spent hundreds of years with them. So we go to our next two prayers, Reitzeh and Moadim, on page 22. Adonai, our God, show favor towards your people Israel and lovingly receive our prayers. May the worship of your people always be acceptable to you, for you alone do we hold in reverence. And we give thanks to you, Adonai, our God and God of our ancestors. You are the rock of our lives, the shield of our salvation for all generations. So we thank you and we recite your praises. Let all the living affirm you and praise your name as the God of our salvation and help. Praised are you, Adonai. Goodness is your name. All praises to you. Baruch atah Adonai hatov shimcha lecha ne'eh lahodot. We're going to close out this part of our service with a prayer for peace, page 23, Shalom Rav. May abundant peace flow down upon us and all the world. And after that, we're going to take just a few moments for our own silent prayers and our own meditations.
Shalom Rav, Israel Tasim Le'olam. Shalom Israel Tasim Le'olam. Shalom Shalom Israel Tasim Le'olam. Shalom Israel Tasim Le'olam. V'tov beinecha levarech et amcha Yisrael bechol עת ובכל שעה לשלום. Shalom Israel Tasim Le'olam. Shalom Tasim Le'olam. Tasim Le'olam. Tasim Le'olam.
We're going to circle around now back to the theme of peace with Oseh Shalom, which is on the bottom of the same page.
Oseh Shalom. Oseh Shalom. Ve'al kol Yisrael. Ve'yivu nen Oseh Shalom. Oseh Shalom. Ve'al kol Yisrael. Ve'yivu nen Yaseh Shalom. Yaseh Shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom. Yaseh Shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom. Yaseh Shalom. Shalom Israel. Yaseh Shalom. Yaseh Shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Israel.
So, as we go forward, by the way, I just want to cite the fact that the central motif to this sermon is not original to me. I borrowed it from my colleague, Micah Citron, in a sermon he gave 7 or 8 years ago, but I liked it so much, I've been holding on to it. So, how many of us, usually the older among us, have seen repeatedly the epic film by Cecil B. DeMille's, The 10 Commandments? Oh my gosh, the most non-Jewish Moses ever in Charlton Heston. But gotta love it. And particularly, and I always remember vividly, as the Israelites are huddling in their hovels with the blood smeared across the lintels and the doorposts, the 10th plague, the slaying of the firstborn, begins. And in cinematic imagination, the green finger-like wisps of smoke slowly branch out across the screen and across Egypt, and silently and subtly, this representation of the Mashchit, the destroyer, or as we later define it, the angel of death, creeps through the city of Pharaoh, and the suffering cries of Egyptian parents pierce the night. Looking back on it, DeMille's cinematic genius is really realized in this one moment, in contrast to the many of the earlier, often earth-shaking plagues of blood and locusts or hail. Instead, in this particular case, we witness the quiet power of a terrible plague, the silence punctuated only by the tears of the survivors crying out in anguish. Having endured our own modern plague very recently, I wonder how long this plague of death had been lingering under the surface of Egypt. It had probably been there since the very start of Egyptian slavery. Disasters, we learn, are often the culmination of a long series of bad decisions. Our Torah portion for this Shabbat, Parashat Bo, we encounter the final plagues that God brings upon Egypt and upon Pharaoh. Each successive plague becomes more severe and more debilitating, and yet the text keeps telling us that Pharaoh's heart stiffens. His stubborn arrogance entrenches his position. But something begins to change with the final 5 plagues. Now God actually intervenes and begins to shape Pharaoh's heart directly. The more popular translation of this condition is that God hardens Pharaoh's heart. But there are other possible translations. His heart is weighed down, it is stiffened, It is thickened. We can even plausibly say that we are talking about Pharaoh's thoughts, because the heart, according to the ancient Israelites, was the seat of thinking. And therefore his mind thickens or becomes rigid or becomes turgid or weighed down with each successive defeat. Our commentators ponder this shift. And one suggests that while it is difficult to write on a hard rock, once that rock has been engraved, what is written upon it will not go away. Pharaoh had many opportunities to respond to the plagues and to change his course of action. Pharaoh set into motion a process that only gradually became a fixed part of the unfolding tragedy. His inability to release the Israelites from the scourge of slavery mirrors the depth of his own self-enslavement. At some point, the sum total of our choices, especially those that tend to be destructive, become self-perpetuating, written in stone, as it were, and much more difficult to reverse. The plagues there under this model came as a warning, as a wake-up call to understand the corrosive nature of slavery. But rather than understand the plagues as a literal, supernatural image, wonders wrought by God, our Torah simultaneously offers what amounts to subtle metaphors to us. Imagine the consequences of the injustice in society. Pharaoh's complacency, his monomania, his arrogance prevented him from looking more broadly and deeply at what was going on around him all the time. We can grasp the plagues serving as mirrors, reflecting what Egyptian society had become. But Pharaoh himself misses out on the lesson. If we understand the plagues as mirrors into Egypt, we see what the final three plagues of our Torah portion reflect. Locusts come and devour everything. Such is the nature of bad decisions in a society. Eventually, it consumes us. And then God brought on the darkness in all the land, except in the land of Goshen, where the Israelites dwelled there. That was still light. The Hasidic teaching interprets this darkness as a metaphor also. The darkness was so overwhelming and complete that the people could not see each other. Get it? People who don't see each other. Egyptians simply did not see their neighbors in distress, nor reach out to help them. Of course, God lifts the darkness to bring on an even more terrible night, the slaying of the firstborn. And the Torah relates that each and every firstborn Egyptian suffered this plague, from Pharaoh's firstborn to the son of the lowliest handmaiden. While Egypt's ruling class benefited most from Hebrew slavery, all of Egyptian society participated in it in a kind of, pre-democratic, democratic decision, and so ultimately suffered the consequences of it. When we look into the mirror of the 10th plague, we are reminded that the human world, our world, is interconnected. The suffering of Hebrew slaves and the decrees to throw the firstborn into the Nile could not be isolated only among the oppressed. Torah suggests that the plagues themselves were mirrors, repeatedly showing us wake-up visions and images, calls that were never fully heeded until it was too late. And yet we leave the lessons of the Torah incomplete if we do not then apply them to our own day. Seems that we too have plagues in our modern society that reflect back on us, both the consequences of our action and our inaction. And I want to take a moment to touch upon two modern plagues and ask us not to look away, but to pay attention. For almost a year now, we have watched the terrible consequences of what happens when an autocrat becomes hardened in his heart and thoughts, and his servants obey him without question. The country of Ukraine has been pummeled, beaten down, cities and villages leveled because of some dark fantasy of empire. I daily view online a channel called Russian Media Watch, and its increasingly insane parade of Russian media figures trying to rationalize, justify, and conceal the terrible decisions of the past year, the explanations grow increasingly bizarre as time goes on. First, we are told Ukraine is not a nation, but a runaway province. Then we are told that Russia needs to reclaim its empire in order for Russia to be great. But it's not the Ukrainians, however, who are doing this. It's the Polish, who will soon be invading Russia. No, it's NATO, who made Russia invade Ukraine. No, it's America, which is now the new Fourth Reich, the new Nazi regime. And then it's a satanic conspiracy, and on it goes. And all the while, the Russians are suffering too. Casualties creep towards 200,000. Its military might and its national economy is being consumed like locusts in fire and steel. And almost 1 million young Russians have fled a country that, quite frankly, was already facing a steep demographic decline. The oppressors, it seems, always suffer by way of their oppression. What we see is a terrible mirror of how any society can delude itself. But the mirror is not just a distant mirror. Our nation, too, has to peer occasionally into the darkness. The current manifestations of our plague could be described as excessive use of force in places like Memphis against people like Tyre Nichols, following on mounting examples that we've seen over and over again, from Eric Garner to Breonna Taylor, and a long list of other names we can't recall. It holds up an ugly mirror to our culture of law enforcement. The cases of Black people being shot to death or beaten and dying in custody tears at our sense of what we want, what we need American justice to look like. But these stories belong to a larger plague in which African American men are, statistically, there's no argument about this, 21 times more likely to be shot by police than white men. It's a plague that persists with us since the emancipation of slaves, but now it increasingly is filling our court with law enforcement officers who we want to respect and honor, who nevertheless keep committing crimes under the color of law. These oppressions turn back upon the oppressors gradually. It is a plague of two Americas in which our government responds to some citizens with deference and responsibility while casting a doubtful eye on others as if they were already guilty until proven innocent and often executed on the fly. As I look at these mirrors, both distant and near, I hold the image of that unfolding green finger of plague that filled the movie screen of my childhood. How slowly and how nefariously it moves. Why don't we notice it sooner? The plagues that fell upon the Egyptians were, in fact, opportunities to gaze into the mirror and make a change. Our Torah holds its place of influence for almost 3,000 years precisely because its teachings are powerfully relevant to us today. We have to have that inner strength that Pharaoh lacked to look into what ails and what affects our world and look directly into the mirror and see the truth that is reflected back, the quality and character of the world that we help shape. It is, without question, incredibly difficult to face up to our plagues. Human beings are creatures that cannot go for more than a couple of days without a good rationalization. There's always a good reason why the Ukrainians need to be invaded or why Black men should have done something different in order to avoid their deathly fate. But the fact of the matter is the mirror keeps saying to us, I too play a role. I too have some responsibility. It can be easy to let our hearts harden, stiffen, and become indifferent with despair or apathy or meanness of spirit. And it doesn't have to be cruelty. It just has to be overexposure. We just don't want to look at it anymore. But if we allow this to happen unchecked, then we become more than a little like Pharaoh. Our tradition offers an encouraging teaching, however, that even as God hardens Pharaoh's heart, not all needs to be lost. In every circumstance, we believe as Jews that it is possible to change course, to assert our free will, to overcome patterns of neglect and hardness and cruelty, and we can choose the good. The tradition teaches Aveira gereret aveira, mitzvah gereret mitzvah. Every transgression is rewarded with another transgression, but it only takes a mitzvah to be rewarded with another mitzvah. We can do good and change the course of what we do. Give us the strength, Adonai, to open our eyes and let our hearts see and feel and respond. Give us a heart of flesh and not a heart of stone. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. It's our custom now to do announcements for the community. Who's our officer tonight? It is the ever awesome and effervescent Molly. Come on up, Molly. All of our people seem to be suffering injuries
I
this
know,
week.
I know. My foot, and I noticed a guest has a bandage around her knee, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
But it's
See,
a very attractive footing.
it is.
Yeah.
It is. And you're here with us because you're injured like us, right? Okay, so Shabbat Shalom to everybody.
Shabbat Shalom.
Right. Okay. Anniversaries this week. Star and Meryl Leva have an anniversary, and birthdays in the last week are Tony Dower and Carly Wisniewski. Okay. Announcements. Rough Riders. The Rough Riders are offering group tickets to us. The tickets are available for April 8th at 7:05 p.m. against the Amarillo Sod Poodles on opening.
What?
Sod Poodles.
The sod poodles.
The Sod Poodles
Okay.
on opening weekend.
I am afraid.
Yeah, I know.
I'm
You can find the registration link for that in the weekly blast, or where? On the website. Very good. T-shirt design contest that Melissa headed for us. A huge thank yous. The winners have been chosen. And so a huge thank you and great job to all of our students that submitted T-shirt designs. We received many wonderful entries. Food is on our mind all the time, right? The winners have now been chosen, and we are working on getting the initial T-shirt designs prepared. We should have these available for purchase soon. Be sure to keep an eye out for our winners modeling their designs and the information on how you can get your own version of one or all of the designs. Once everything is ready, we'll have a link where? On the website, or you can work with Bob in the office to get yours. Mazel tov to all of our winners. Introduction to Judaism. Another class is being started. They just keep coming, don't they?
Yeah, we've had a lot of people approaching us about embracing Torah this year.
Right. We've had so much demand for the Introduction to Judaism course this year. We have opened up a second session that will begin on February 9th. If you know of someone who might be interested in this course, please point them to our website. All the details, schedule, and a link to sign up are available there. CKA Book Club. Good book club. If you are a reader and would like to join a group of congregants with similar interests, now is the time to join the CKA Book Club. The 2023 book list has just been published, and you can find it on the website under the affinity groups information. The book club meets the third Tuesday of every month at 7 p.m. Come out and join us. It is always an enjoyable evening. One of the nice things about this year is that we have decided to read a different genre every month. So we're going to be reading science fiction. We're going to be reading biographies. We're going to be reading drama. We're going to be reading fantasy. So it's a good year coming up. I still can't say I'm brought in by this science fiction yet, but I'm going to keep with it. I'm going to read it to the end. So the Misha Berach list for those who are suffering in body or spirit: Joyce Bloom, Natalie Bovino, Karen Brown, George Kavinas, Karen Cohen, Sandy Cook, Mark Davis, Nancy Enneman, Harry Enneman, Francine Feingold, Joseph Friedman, Michelle Griffith, Carol Jones, Molly Kalig, John Kaufman, excuse me, Deb Kaufman, Lauren Koenig, Alex Koenig, Gianna LaMonica, Deb Ledden, Matt Levine, Phyllis Lorelli, Paxton Luch, Jane Mobley, Erwin Marks, Paul Redwood Jr., Helen Rubel, Adrian Sandler, Dale Seaver, Happy Waterman, Karen Weinstein, Barry Weinstein, and Tom Wolf. Is there anybody that would like to add?
Irene Nemi, Sandy Nemi, and Barb Ditburner.
Very good. Anybody else? Harold? Thank you. Any else? Joanne? Thank you.
Maddie and Emma Nompus and Brian Trident.
Thank you.
Frank Rusman.
Thank you. We pray for, what is it, Methodists also. So if you've got anybody that in your group that, yeah.
And Robin Dennis and Marilyn Golden.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, your turn.
That's mine.
Oh, you can find the
Page 40 in your prayer.
page 40 in your prayer book. Yeah. Or on the back of your little bulletin.
Mishevera chavotenu mekor hara may the source of strength who bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Misheber Chimotenu Mekor Otenu, bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
All right. All right. Dr. Amanda, as our community veterinarian, I was wondering if you could perhaps expound on the Texas sod poodle and tell us a little bit more about it. How does it compare to, say, a Labradoodle or maybe Ibushinu or Shibu Inu or any of those things that we know, the blackmouth cur? What can we learn about this particular Texas breed?
Not a purebred.
All right. That was a good answer. I am very impressed. I put you on the spot. You totally flew with it. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we are moving into the conclusion of our service. We are going to turn to page 82 for the Aleinu, in which we affirm our praise of God and our commitment to carry forward God's mission in the world. Please rise, ladies and gentlemen, if able. And let's see, who can I invite? I put Dr. Amanda on the spot big time, so I'm going to honor her by asking her to come up and open the ark with me. Paige, no, she's a good sport. She's a good sport. Page 82. Turn the page. Let it go, hey, Please be seated, everyone. Bayom hahu, bayom hahu, Yeh Adonai echad, Ushamo, Ushamo, Ushamo echad. Now is the time of every service that we recall those people who once lived among us but are no longer with us. As we think of them, we meditate upon the meaning of love and of loss, of life and death. We begin with Shiva, those who've died in the last week. And it was only just before the service this evening that we heard over the news that 7 Jews celebrating Shabbat in Israel, which comes 8 hours before us, were massacred in their synagogue. In Neve Shalom, a suburb I know well in the north of Jerusalem. We're devastated. I've not yet seen the names, but we're thinking of them as we think of their families also. Is there anyone else who has lost a loved one in the last 7 days? Please share the name with us. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. For Shloshim, for those who have passed away in the last 30 days, we think of these people connected to our community: Stanley Irwin Berman, the father of Andrew Berman, and of Ben Dickerson, the husband of Florence Dickerson. Who else might have lost someone in the last 30 days? Please. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And then for yard sites, anniversaries of death, we think of these individuals connected to our community: Dora Bornstein, Arthur J. Cohen, Midge Colton, Melba Helms, William Burrell Reds Nichols, Samuel Rotman, Eva Rubin, and Irene Six. Anybody else know of an anniversary of death? Yes. Thank you. Thank you. The memory and presence of all these people are here with us now. As we think of them, we also think of those who mourn for those who have passed away. And in honor of both of those things, we rise together, and on page 85, we recite the Mourner's Kaddish. Yitkadal v'yitkadash Shmei Rabbah Ve'alma tivrach yirute v'yamlich malchute. V'chayechon uvyomechon uvchaye dechol Beit Yisrael. Bagalal uvizman kariv v'imru. Amen. Yehi shmei rabba mevarach le'olam ulalmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei d'kudsha b'richu. Le'ila min kol birchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechemata damiran be'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'el kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom bimromav. Hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'el kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. May the source of peace, who sends peace in forms that we will never fully understand, send peace to those who mourn and comfort to those who are grieved. And let us all say, Amen. Have a seat, folks. And our closing song is going to come from the book of Zechariah, and you will find the text for it on page 100. No, a little further, page 103 in the middle of the page. Not by might and not by power, but by spirit alone shall we all live in peace.
Not by power, but by spirit alone shall we all live in peace. Not by power, but by spirit
alone
shall we all live in peace. The children sing, the children dream. Tears may fall, we'll hear them call, and another song will rise. Another song will rise. Another song will rise. Not by might and not by power, but by spirit alone.
Ruach, shall we all live in
Peace. Not by might and not by power, but by spirit alone. Ruach, shall we all live in peace. The children sing, the children dream, and their tears may fall, we'll hear them all, and another song will rise, and another song will rise. Not by might and not by power, but by spirit alone shall we all live in peace. One more time. Not by might and not by power, but by spirit alone shall we all live in peace. Not by might, not by power.
So, as we conclude the service, I will tell our Methodists this. In ancient times, what we used to do is we used to offer material sacrifices to God, usually in the form of foodstuffs like bread and flour and oil and salt and animals. And then we'd sit down and we, as it says in the book of Exodus, we ate and drank and saw the face of God. Today, we do it with chocolate chip cookies. So the service is not really over until you've come to the oneg afterwards and had something to eat and drink with us. So you're required to go in there and have something, and it's kind of relentless hospitality. Just accept it. All right, Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Let's go on. How are you doing? How are you? Iron.